When I began this project, my intentions were to translate and transfer my research into a novel. That was the plan anyway. But after conducting interviews with the family involved, I decided to let their words stand on their own. They are far more powerful and chilling than anything I could fictionalize. And to be perfectly honest, I just want to be done with this. I don't think I have the mental stamina to turn these horrific revelations into a novel. What follows is a transcript of the interviews I recorded of the 4 members of the Tenor family. This will be the first of 4 such releases. Do what you will with this, but be careful. Claire interview. October the 12th, 2016. Me. Please state your name and age. Claire. My name is Claire. I'm 14. Me. Thank you, Claire, for agreeing to do this. I know it must not be easy considering everything you went through. Claire. Yeah. Me. If at any point you feel uncomfortable or wish to stop, please let me know and we'll end the interview, okay? Claire. All right. Me. Are you ready to begin? Claire. I think so. Yeah. Me. Okay. Papers shuffled. Since you're the first one I'm questioning, would you mind describing your family? What was it like at home? Did you get along with your younger brother and parents? Claire. Things were fine before it all started. We all got along as much as the next family. We had fights and stuff. But who doesn't? Dad and Mom loved each other and worked hard to make sure my brother and I had good lives. I don't know. There isn't really anything special to say about us. We were just a normal family. Me. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify what the foundation of your home life was like before continuing. You lived on a farm, correct? Claire. Yeah. Me. Care to elaborate a little? Claire. Sorry. Yeah, we lived there my whole life. Dad had a couple cows and pigs and grew corn in the fields out back. We weren't too far from town, so we usually ended up selling most of our stock to locals. That's how Dad and Mom liked it. Me. Was it lonely living out there? Claire. Clears throat. I wouldn't say so. I had friends at school and stuff. I think Ross would get lonely though. Me. Your brother? Claire. Yeah. Me. What makes you say that? Claire. I don't know. I guess it's 'cause he never had any friends over to the house like I did. He kinda always stuck to himself. He doesn't talk much, but he's sweet. He's a sweet boy. Me. You love your brother? Claire. Of course I do. Me. And your parents? Claire. Absolutely. Me. Can we talk about what happened? Claire. I'm assuming that's why I'm here. Me. When did you notice things starting to change? Claire. I guess it was early that summer. It was hot. I remember being hot the first time it happened. Me. The first time what happened? Claire. That I knew something was wrong. Me. Before we go on, I just want to clarify something. Claire. Okay. Me. You never saw this thing, did you? Claire. Long pause. No. Never. Me. Only your father and brother did, correct? Claire. Yeah. Me. But you could hear it? Claire. Yes. Me. Could you explain what that was like? Claire. Long pause. Like I said, it was hot the first time I noticed it. I was in bed and it was dark out. Everyone was asleep, except for me. My bedroom door was open and I was sweating like crazy, wishing for the 1,000th time we had AC in our house. I was lying above the covers, and that's when I felt something. Me. Something physical? Claire. No, it was just this feeling. This awful, heavy feeling. Something had just walked into the room. Something bad. I remember my heart started to race, and I didn't know why. Me. What happened then? Claire. I turned over on my side facing the closet. When I did that, I was suddenly struck with this terrible, horrible fear. It came at me from all sides, and I knew it had something to do with that awful feeling, that energy that had entered the room. Me. What did you do? Claire. Nothing. I couldn't explain it, and so I tried to just shake it off. That's when I got this image or thought. It was like something had shoved it inside my head, and it was all I could think about. Me. What were you thinking? Claire. Her face pales. That something was in the closet. Me. Did you hear anything coming from the closet? Claire. No, but like I said, it was as if someone had crammed that idea into my head from the outside, like something wanted me to know that. Me. Did you investigate? Claire. I was too scared. I just lay there, staring at it, at the closet door. God, I was so scared. Long pause. But after a couple minutes, I did hear something. Me. From the closet. Claire. No, from the hallway. Like I said, my bedroom door was open. Me. What did you hear? Claire. A voice. Something was saying my name very quietly over and over again. It was like someone was standing just outside the door, out of eyesight. Me. Did it say anything else to you? Claire. It told me to come with it. Me. Could you describe the voice? Claire. It was a calm male voice. Very calm. And deep. Almost soothing if it hadn't been so terrifying. Me. Did you go to investigate? Claire. No, I stayed put, shaking in my bed. After a couple seconds, the voice stopped. When it stopped, the feeling went away. That awful feeling. And so did the fear of the closet. I can't really explain it. It just evaporated. Me. Did you tell your parents about it? Claire. I didn't bother. I knew they'd just tell me I was dreaming. In fact, once morning came, I wondered if I had been. Me. How long was it before you experienced the phenomenon again? Claire. A couple days. It was at night again when everyone was asleep. I woke up because I thought I heard the front door open downstairs. I crawled out of bed and went out into the hallway. As soon as I did, I felt that horrible energy again. It was so heavy, like something was watching me. Me. Did you see anything? Claire. Yeah, the front door was wide open. I thought someone had broken in, but I caught sight of my dad walking out into the front yard and then around the house. Me. Where was he going? Claire. To the barn. I slipped downstairs and followed him. I watched from the corner of the house as he went inside. He was acting strange. Me. What do you mean? Claire. Well, it was the way he walked. You know how you can identify someone by their walk. Me. Sure. Claire. Well, his was different now. If I hadn't been familiar with his wardrobe, I would have thought it was someone else. It scared me. Me. What did your father do in the barn? Claire. I don't know. He was only in there a couple minutes. When he came out, he had this huge smile on his face and was carrying a bunch of tools. But as he got closer, I saw there was something wrong with his eyes. Me. His eyes. Claire. Yeah, they were covered with something. Me. Like a rag? Claire. No, like, it's hard to describe. Me. Take your time. Claire. Pause. It was like he had molded clay over his eyes. Blue clay. I don't know how he saw anything, but he walked all the way around the other side of the house and straight into the cornfields. Me. Did you follow him? Claire. No. Something stopped me. Me. What do you mean? Claire. I was about to go get Mom when I felt this. I felt something breathing against the back of my neck. I know what you're going to say, but it wasn't the wind. Because a second after I felt that, I heard that voice whisper something in my ear. Me. What did it say? Claire. It told me to go back to bed. Me. And did you? Claire. Yeah, I ran as fast as I could back upstairs, but when I reached the top of the stairs, I stopped. Ross was sitting cross-legged in front of his bedroom door, crying. I went to him and knelt down at his side. He was really upset. Me. Did he say anything? Claire. Yeah. He looked up at me, his little face twisted with grief, and told me he was sorry. Me. Sorry for what? Claire. I asked him. He just shook his head and buried his face in his hands. That's when I felt the energy again, that awful heavy heat. I could feel it down the hall by the stairs, like it was coming toward us. Panicking, I picked Ross up and ran into his room. I slammed the door behind us and locked it. Me. What was Ross doing during this? Claire. He just kept saying he was sorry and continued to weep. I pressed my back against the door and waited. My heart was racing. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Just that something was in the hall, and it terrified me. Me. Did anything else happen? Claire. I could feel the presence on the other side of the door, like it was pressed against the wood, just like I was. I closed my eyes, and right as I did, I heard that voice again. It was muffled and so calm, so horribly calm. Me. What did it say to you? Claire. Long pause. Side note. At this point. Claire seemed to grow incredibly uncomfortable. She bit her lip, and her eyes dropped to the table. She seemed reluctant to go on. Me. Do we need to take a break? Claire. Stammering. Yes. Yes, I don't think I can talk about this anymore today. Me. Can you tell me what it said? And then we'll be done for the day. Is that okay? Claire. Long pause. Okay, it told me. It told me to let Ross go. Me. Let him go? Claire nodded and was growing sickly pale. Me. Did Ross hear the voice? Claire. Yes. He started crying, even harder. He said something to me. Me. Yes? Claire. Struggling. He told me that the voice on the other side of the door, he told me that its name was Clue. Author's note. It was clear that Claire wasn't going to be able to go on anymore. She stood up and wrapped her arms around herself and begged me to turn off the recorder. I complied and watched her leave. I was just as shaken as she was. Mary interview October 15th, 2016. Audio recorder initiated. Me. Please state your name and age. Mary. I'm Mary Tenner, and I'm 43. Me. Thank you, Mary, for meeting with me. I'm sorry if I upset your daughter the other day. I hope she's doing okay. Mary. This whole ordeal has been very upsetting. Me. Of course, of course. I'll tell you what I told Claire. And that's if at any point you feel uncomfortable or wish to stop, then please let me know, and I'll turn off the recorder. Mary. Okay. Me. Now, I'd like to just go ahead and jump right in, if that's all right. How long have you been married to Jake? Mary. 25 years, and hopefully we'll still be married 25 years from now. Me. That's a strange thing to say. Mary. Sighs. These events have really taken a toll on him. I can feel him drifting away from me. Me. Why do you think that is? Mary. I think he blames himself for what happened. Me. Because of what he did in the cornfield. Mary. Yes, and also because he's Ross's father. It's not easy seeing your little boy. Well, you've seen Ross. Me. I've seen pictures, yes. Mary. If you were his father, how would you react? Me. I'm afraid I'm unqualified to answer that. Mary. Exhales heavily. Sure. Me. Paper shuffling. Now, the night everything went down, when everything came to a head. You were the one who saved Ross, weren't you? Mary. I pulled him out, yes. Me. I'm assuming you were aware of the situation leading up to that night. Mary. Are you talking about Clue? Me. Yes. Mary. I had experienced things prior to that night. Yes. Me. Care to walk me through it? Mary. Well, the first time I noticed something was on a Sunday afternoon. This was a couple weeks before that awful night in the cornfield. I was preparing dinner, and everyone was outside except for me. I remember standing by the window at the sink. Jake was playing catch in the backyard with Ross. Claire was watching them and playing with her phone. Me. Was the window open? Mary. Yes, I could hear them laughing. Me. What happened then? Mary. Well, as I moved around the kitchen, I began to hear something. It was this clump, 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 like something was shadowing my footsteps. Me. Like, following you? Mary. Yeah, exactly like that. It was so close too. I turned around, expecting to see Jake or Claire, but there was nobody there. And that's when I felt this awful energy fill the room. It was like I had walked into a sauna, and it became difficult to breathe. I went to the window and fanned myself. As I did, I heard that clomping sound follow me. It's hard to explain what that moment was like. I felt sick, and it was like all the bad thoughts I'd ever had returned back to me. I felt like at any second I would start crying. Me. Did it eventually go away? Mary. The noise? Yes, but something happened first. Me. What? Mary. I went to turn on the oven, and as I leaned down, I noticed something on the floor. I picked it up and saw that it was some of Ross's clay. He loves his clay, and he keeps it in these little sealed containers so it doesn't dry out. I was surprised to see it just out in the open. Me. I'm sorry, but what does that have to do with anything? Mary. Hold on, I'm getting to that. When I picked it up, I felt the energy in the kitchen thicken, like there was something in there that wanted to hurt me. For some reason, I couldn't stop staring at the broom closet, like something was in there. Me. What did you do? Mary. I bored up the clay and stuck it in a little plastic container for Ross. Then I went outside as quick as I could. I don't think I could have stayed in that kitchen for another minute. That feeling, Christ, it was awful. Me. Claire mentioned something about clay also. On the night your husband first went into the cornfield. Author's note. Mary grew very quiet and seemed like she was struggling to continue. Her face went pale, and she began to fidget. Me. Everything okay? Mary. I don't like thinking about that night. Me. Would you like to take a break? Mary. No, we just started. It's okay. Me. Whenever you're ready, take your time. Mary. Long pause. It was very hot that night. It took me a while to fall asleep. Claire had been complaining earlier about getting AC in the house. When I eventually did sleep, it wasn't for long. I heard someone come into the room. I opened my eyes and saw Ross standing over by Jake. He was crying. Me. Did you say anything to him? Mary. Whispers. I couldn't even open my mouth. It felt like something was pressing against my lips hard. I started to freak out, but all I could do was lay there. That energy, that awful presence I had felt in the kitchen was back. I could feel it at the foot of the bed, looming over us. Me. But you didn't see anything? Mary. No, but I could hear it. Me. What did you hear? Mary. It sounded like whispering. This hoarse, throaty whispering. I couldn't make out what it was saying, the words tumbling over themselves to form this jumble of noise. It was quiet, so horribly quiet. I was aware that Ross was doing something to Jake, but my eyes remained locked on the foot of the bed, like something was commanding my attention. Me. Do you know what Ross was doing? Mary. Now I do. Me. How long did this go on for? Mary. Not long. After a couple moments, Ross stepped away from the bed and walked back down the hall to his room. He was still crying. Me. Did the energy in the room leave with him? Mary whispers, no. In fact, it got worse. It was so hot, and my head was filled with so much negative emotion that I thought I would explode. After a couple seconds, I felt Jake get out of bed. He walked to the doorway, and I heard him go downstairs and open the front door. It was like he was sleepwalking. He never looked back. Me. Did you follow him? Mary. I couldn't. Whatever was holding me in place wouldn't let me up. I felt the presence at the foot of the bed walk over to my side. I heard that fucking clomp, clomp, clomp. Whatever it was, I knew it was looking down at me, so close I could reach out and touch it. Me. But you couldn't see whatever it was? Mary. No. I just lay there trembling, pissing myself, staring up at the empty space, feeling these waves of heat emanate from the bedside and cover me. Me. What happened then? Mary. I heard it speak. Me. What did it say? Mary. Pauses. It spoke a single word. Its voice was so awful, so inhuman, like an animal growling. Me. What was the word? Mary. Whispers. Stop. Me. Stop. Mary. Yes. Just. Stop. Me. What did you do? Mary. I can't explain why or how, but I fell asleep almost instantly. Next thing I knew, it was morning. I woke up bathed in sweat, the sun bright and hot, and pouring in through the windows. I scrambled downstairs, and Jake was already out in the barn working. Claire and Ross were eating at the table. Neither of them looked up at me. They seemed shaken. Me. Did you talk to them about it? Mary. No. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to scare them. I figured I'd wait and talk to Jake later. By the time he came inside, though, I had pushed it to the back of my mind. I wanted to believe it was all a bad dream. In fact, I wanted that so badly that I think my mind tricked itself into actually believing that. Just a fever dream. Me. Did it ever happen again before the night in the cornfield? Mary. Only once. It was just after we had returned from church. I had surprised Ross with a new Bible and presented it to him upstairs in his room. He was about to change out of his Sunday clothes when I handed it to him. Me. What happened? Mary. As soon as I handed it to him, the room got dark. Me. What do you mean dark? Mary. Like the sun had gone out. It only lasted for a moment, but in that moment, I heard a voice whisper in my ear, that awful animalistic growl. It told me to stop. It commanded me to. Ross shoved the Bible back into my hands and started tearing up. That's when the light returned. Ross apologized and said he couldn't, that he was sorry, but he just couldn't. Me. Did you leave the house? Mary. Yes. We went to my parents' house that day. I wanted to tell them about it. I wanted to tell Jake about it. But this little voice in the back of my head insisted that if I spoke of it, then things would just get worse. I don't know why I thought that, but it was such a strong intuition that I listened to it. Me. And that takes us to the night in the cornfield, correct? Author's note. Mary began to scratch at her arms, and I could tell this is having a serious negative impact on her. She seemed eager to be done with the interview. Mary. Yes, the night in the cornfield. Me. Can you give me a little insight in your part in all that? Mary. Stutters. I already told you about that. Me. Could you expand on some of the details? Mary. I don't know if I can. Me. We don't have to continue if you're feeling uncomfortable. Mary gathers herself. I woke up alone in bed. Jake was gone. I could hear Ross screaming outside from the field. And when I say screaming, I mean screaming. I jumped out of bed and knew that something terrible was happening. I knew it had to do with that thing in our house. Author's note: Mary began to pale rapidly, and sweat broke out along her forehead. She spoke quickly, as if to rid herself of the events as fast as possible. Mary, I raced downstairs and immediately felt like something was watching me. The air was sweltering, and I began to cough. It felt like the heat was pressing against the sides of my head, like it was trying to smother me. I could still hear Ross screaming, though, so I didn't stop. I bolted out the front door and raced for the cornfield, to where Ross was. And me. Mary, are you okay? Mary, panicking. Yeah, you know what happened next. You read the papers and saw the pictures. Me, I would like to hear it from you, if that's all right. Mary, frantic, breaking down. Jesus, it was so scary when I found Ross, when I found him in the cornfield, in the clearing. Me, hey, easy, it's okay. Mary, crying, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sorry, but I just can't. Me, that's perfectly fine. Here, I'll turn off the recorder. We're done. It's okay. Author's note: Mary was unable to continue on. She was on the verge of hysterics, crying openly and shaking all over. She looked completely traumatized. I ended the session immediately upon request. Jake interview, October 19th, 2016. Audio recorder initiated. Me. You okay, Jake? Jake, distracted. Yes. I'm just a little nervous. Me. There's no need to be. We'll go at a pace you're comfortable with. All right. Jake. Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Me. What is it? Jake. I'm worried about how people are going to take this. Me. The interview? Jake. Yeah. Me. Take your time, Jake. Author's note: Jake covered his pale face in his hands and seemed distraught or ashamed. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Jake, hesitant. I've just been having a hard time living with myself after what happened. Me. What do you mean? Jake. How am I supposed to look at Ross? How can he ever trust me ever again? Me. You're referring to your role in the events that transpired, when your daughter Claire spotted you disappearing into the cornfield. Jake. Oh, God. Me. Take a breath, Jake. You want some water? Jake. No. Me. Can we back up? Are you okay with that? Jake. All right. Me. Before the night you went into the cornfield, had you previously been exposed to what was happening? Jake. Whispers. Oh, yes. Me. How so? Author's note: Jake turned to me, and I saw darkness in his eyes. It frightened me, and I felt him preparing the next sentence like a crack of lightning. Jake. Because I had seen the fucking thing. Me. You saw? Clue. Jake. That's right. Me. When was this? Jake. A couple weeks before Ross came into our room and put that clay over my eyes. Me. So what happened? Jake. I had gotten up for a drink of water. House was quiet, except for the usually stirrings. I got a drink from the sink and then went to check on the kids. I do that sometimes, just to make sure they're asleep and okay. Me. I see. Jake. So I go out of the bedroom, and the stairs leading to the ground level are on my left. You follow? Me. So far. Jake. Well, I kind of froze up at the top of the stairs, because there was something down there looking up at me. Me. Can you describe what you saw? Jake. Voice hoarse. I ain't ever seen anything like it. It was horrifying in its simplicity. It looked like blue clay, like someone had started to mold a human figure out of it. Except it wasn't complete. It was about 6 feet tall. It stood on 2 legs, and its feet were just rounded nubs. It had no arms, no head, just a perfectly smooth torso like someone had forgotten to attach the rest of its parts. There were no indentations, no curves to its figure. It was just a molded block of clay with two legs, and it was just standing there at the bottom of the stairs, completely motionless. Me. Shit. Jake. I just stared at it for a second, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. I kept waiting for it to move or disappear, but it didn't. It just stayed like that, watching me. I could feel its energy rippling up the stairs in great big waves, heat like you wouldn't believe. Me. Why do you think you could see it? Jake. I don't know. Maybe it needed me to in order to take control. Me. What did you did? Jake. After a couple of seconds of standing there, I finally closed my eyes and counted to 10. I thought I was dreaming. When I opened them again, it was gone. Me. Was that the only time you saw it? Jake. No. I began seeing it everywhere. In the fields. Standing on the roof of the barn. In the broom closet. Always just watching me. It never moved. Not once did it move. I thought I was losing my mind, me. Did you ever tell your family about it? Jake. No, sir. I didn't want to scare them. Thought I was just going crazy. I ended up talking to our pastor about it one day after service. I explained the energy I felt flowing off this thing, this creature, that horrible heat, and this terrible weight, kinda like sadness. Me. What did your pastor say? Jake. He told me I was stressed out and overworked. He urged me to rest and stay out of the sun. That would have done any good. Me. He didn't believe you? Jake. Hell, would you? Me. I suppose not. Jake. Exactly. So I just chose to ignore it. It wasn't harming anyone, after all. It would just watch me and give off that negative energy. Me. Were you aware that Ross was seeing it as well? Jake. Not at the time, no. God knows, I wish I had. Maybe then I could have done something more than I did. Me. Speaking of Ross, how much do you remember about that night you went into the cornfield? Jake. Not much. I remember hearing Ross at my bedside, but nothing after that. Maybe bits and pieces, like a dream. Me. Do you remember him putting the clay over your eyes? Jake. Just a sudden coolness settling over me. Me. You don't remember clearing a circle in the corn? Jake. No. Me. What about the markings? Do you remember tilling them into the earth? Jake. Whispers. No. Me. Do you recall what you made out of the dirt and mud? Jake. Only 'cause what people told me. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about that anymore. I don't like thinking about it. About how if I didn't, then Ross. Me. You had no idea what you were doing, Jake. You can't blame yourself. Jake. Yeah, but I still did it. I still made that fucking author's notes. Jake balled his hands into fists, and I could sense he was beginning to unravel. Quickly took the conversation to the final night of the occurrences. Me. The night it all happened, when Ross went into the field. You were completely in control of yourself, correct? Jake. Quietly. Yes. Me. Can you explain where you were when that all went down? Jake. Sighs heavily. I'm not proud of it, but I was drinking in the barn. You have to understand, this shit had been going on for weeks, and I wasn't sure if I was still sane or not. I needed a nip now and again, you understand? Me. Of course. Jake. Well, I wasn't too deep into the bottle, thank the good Lord, when I heard Ross crying outside. I peeked my head out the barn and saw him walking into the cornfield. Now, he knows he ain't supposed to go in there at night on account of getting lost. But there he was, crying his eyes out and walking into the field. Me. What did you do? Jake. I was going to holler at him, but as soon as I opened my mouth, I saw it. Me. Clue? Jake. Don't call it that. Me. I'm sorry. That's just the name your son provided the papers. Jake. I know, and it makes us all sound like a bunch of loonies. That fucking thing was a faceless, nameless mass of negative energy and ill intentions. That monster was evil incarnate, and when I went to call my son, that towering abnormality was standing right before me, plain as day. I felt my heart seize up, and the air between us kind of shimmered like heat over hot tar, you know? Well, it kind of forced me back into the barn, and that's when I heard Mary screaming and chasing after Ross. She knew what was going on, unbeknownst to me. Shit, if she hadn't gone after him that night. If she hadn't pulled him out. Me. Let's focus on you, Jake. What did you do after you were forced back into the barn? Jake. After a couple minutes, that thing vanished. Like it wanted to make sure Ross made it out to the clearing. Me. But you didn't go after them, did you? Jake. No. No, I didn't. Me. You went back into the house. Correct. Jake. Once that horrible clay statue disappeared, I hauled ass back into the house. Me. What were your intentions? Jake. I was getting my shotgun. I wanted to blow that thing away. I knew it was evil and that it was fucking with my family. It kills me. I waited so long. Almost too long. Me. And you saw something in the house? You mentioned this to the papers briefly, but I wanted to clarify because I think it's very important. Jake. Yes. Halfway up the stairs to retrieve my gun, I saw something standing in the hallway. Right there in the middle of the hallway. Me. What was it? Jake. It was a little clay sculpture about 4 inches tall. It looked exactly like what I had seen at the bottom of the stairs, except smaller. Me. And what did you do? Jake. I don't know why, but I marched right over to it and stomped it to bits. But right as I did so, I looked up and saw the larger version standing in Ross's bedroom. Even though it didn't have eyes, I could tell it was staring daggers at me. Well, I didn't give it another second of my time, and I smashed the little miniature to pieces. Me. And it vanished. The big one. Jake. Like smoke in the rain. Ross's room was suddenly empty, along with the horrible energy I felt in the house. Me. At that point, Mary had already saved Ross and was dragging him out of the cornfield, right? Jake. I raced back downstairs and saw them both struggling toward the house. When I laid eyes on Ross, oh shit. Author's note. Jake began to cry and seemed unwilling to go on. I didn't press him. We ended the interview, and he left in a state of despair. Ross interview October 23rd, 2016. Audio recorder initiated. Me. Ross. Ross. Me. Ross. Are you ready to begin? Ross. Yes, sir. Me. You don't have to call me sir. It's okay. Are you sure you're up for this? Ross. Claire said I should do this. Me. Well, what do you think? Do you think you should do this? Ross. I guess. Me. Let's start with something easy, okay? How old are you? Ross. I'm 6. Me. Do you remember a lot about what happened to you? Ross. Yeah, I remember. Author's note. Ross refused to make eye contact with me. He sat slumped over in his chair and looked sick. I wondered if I should even continue, but pressed on. Me. When did you first meet Clue? That was his name, right? Ross. Yeah. Clue. Me. Do you remember the first time you saw him? Ross. It started before that. Me. I'm sorry. Ross. I went to church first, with Mom and Dad and Claire. Me. Okay, Did something happen at church? Ross. Yeah. I was really sad. Me. Why were you sad, Ross? Ross. 'Cause I had nobody to play with. All the other kids have friends, but not me. Claire says it's because I'm weird. Me. You're not weird, Ross. I can be your friend if you want. Ross. You're just saying that. Nobody wants to talk to me. Except that man at church. Me. What man? Ross. The man in the back. The one with the dark eyes. I seen him a lot. Always sitting in the back like he doesn't have friends to sit with either. Me. Did you go talk to him? Ross. Yeah. After the preacher was done. Me. What did he say to you? Ross. Told me I was a good boy. Asked to see my clay. Me. You had your clay with you? Ross. Uh-huh. Mom lets me take it to church so I don't get bored. Don't tell Dad that, though. Me. I promise I won't. What did he do with your clay? Ross. He asked if I was lonely. Said he would make me a little friend. Me. And did he? Ross. He made Clue. Just a little one. Me. And he gave the figure back to you? Ross. Yeah. He said to be careful not to ruin it. Me. Ross. Do you know what this man's name was? Ross. Yeah, he told it to me. I seen him on TV a couple times too. Me. Really? Who was he? Ross. His name was Paul Rost. Author's note. I remember feeling a chill run through me. I couldn't believe it. I proceeded with caution and tried to mask my shock. Me. You're sure that was his name? Ross. Yeah. He told me not to forget, so I didn't. Me. Ross. Do you know what that man has been doing recently? What he claims to be? Ross. No, sir. Me. He's a self-proclaimed Antichrist, Ross. Do you know what that means? Ross. Quietly. That he's bad. Me. He's been stirring up a lot of buzz recently and developed quite a following. He's a dangerous man. If you ever see him again, you should tell your parents immediately. Ross. Okay. I'm sorry. Me. No, Ross, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Ross, tearing up. But if I hadn't talked to him, then Clue wouldn't have come into our home. He wouldn't have done this. Author's note. Ross looked down at himself, tears running down his cheeks, and sobbed quietly. I calmed him down, and after a little bit, he spoke again. Ross. I knew Clue was bad. I always knew. I could feel how bad he was. But he talked to me. He talked to me a lot. He told me how sad it was here. How sad my family was. Me. And you believed him? Ross. Yeah. I was kind of sad, you know. I wanted to go somewhere that I didn't have to be sad. Me. And so Clue told you he would take you there. Ross. He did. After a couple of weeks, I finally gathered up enough courage to put the clay over my dad's eyes. Me. Clue told you to do that? Ross. He said that Dad needed to build something in the cornfield so that we could leave. So that we could go someplace that wasn't so sad. Me. Where did the clay come from? The clay you put over your father's eyes. Was that yours? Ross. No. Clue told me to scrape some off his body. Me. And you did? Ross. Yeah. It was the first time I ever touched him. He was so cold. Me. When he talked to you, what did he sound like? Ross. Quietly. He sounded like my mom. Me. Your mom? Ross. Yeah. Or my grandpa. He's dead. But I remember what he sounded like. Me. You loved your grandpa? Ross. Yeah. He died last year. I really miss him. Me. Where did you keep the little clay figure poor Ross gave you? Ross. On my dresser. Clue told me not to touch it. Otherwise, he might go away. Me. Did you want to touch it? Ross. Kind of. Clue scared me. And I knew he was bad and that Mom and Claire couldn't see him. But I wanted to go to the place where it wasn't sad. Me. Did Clue ever say what this place was? Ross. Just once. He called it mortuous. Me. Okay. Let's shift over to the night in the cornfield. Can you tell me what happened? Ross. Clue said it was ready. Me. What was? The cornfield? Ross. Yeah. He said the symbols needed to be under the sun for a little while, but that they were ready. Me. You're talking about the markings your father made in the clearing? Ross. Uh-huh. And the statue? Me. But once the time came, you decided you didn't want to go? Ross. I was scared, but Clue made me. Me. What do you mean? Ross. He pushed me out of the house, like with invisible hands. They were so cold. Me. Did Clue follow you? Ross. At first, but I didn't see him move. He never moved. He would just be in one place and then another. Me. How far did he follow you? Ross. Until I passed the barn. Then he was gone. I started to scream. I was so scared. Me. And that's when your mother came. Ross. She didn't find me until I was already in the clearing. I was walking toward the dirt statue Dad made. Me. The one that looked just like Clue. Ross. Yeah. Except it was brown instead of blue. Me. Did you still feel those invisible hands pushing you forward? Ross. They were like ice, shoving me closer and closer towards that mound of dirt that looked like Clue. Me. You had crossed over the circle and had entered the marked earth by then, right? Ross. Yeah. I was shaking all over. I was so scared. Once I was right in front of the statue, the cold hands kept pushing me. Me. Pushing you inside the dirt. Ross. My hand slipped right through it, like it was warm water, just disappeared inside. And then my wrist. And then my elbow. Me. And that's when your mother found you. Ross. I already had my arm in up to my shoulder and part of my leg. They just passed right into that thing. Me. But before you could go any further, your mom pulled you out. Ross. Uh-huh. But when I came out, I left behind the parts already inside. Author's note. Ross began to cry again. He looked down at his body, and I could see the horror in his eyes as they swept over part of himself that wasn't there anymore. I'd be lying if I didn't admit some repulsion, as much as I'm ashamed to admit it. The right side of his body was gone, as if it had never been there at all. But instead of empty space, I could make out the shadow of where his arm and leg had been. It was a darkness that seemed to move on its own accord. While it didn't hold any physical weight in our world, I could tell that something had crossed over from a place completely alien and had attached itself to the child. Me. Ross, do you want to stop? Ross, crying. I want my mom. Me. Okay, buddy, you did really good. We don't have to go on anymore. I'll get your mom and your wheelchair, okay? Can I just ask you one last thing? Ross. One more. Me. Why was the little clay figurine in the hallway that night and not on your dresser? Ross. What? Me. Your father said he found your little clay figurine of Clue in the hallway. This was when you were in the cornfield. He destroyed it, and when he did, Clue vanished. Ross. Oh no. Me. What's wrong? Ross whispers. I destroyed that thing 2 days before I was taken into the field. Me. What are you talking about? Ross. It didn't matter anymore. Whatever power it held over Clue, he had outgrown it. Me. I don't understand. If you destroyed it, then why did your father see it in the hallways that night? Ross whispers. Because Clue was growing new bodies. Me. What? Ross. He wanted more friends. He wanted to take us all to that place inside the statue my dad made. Me. Mortuous? Ross. Uh-huh. He wanted me to hand out the little clay figurines to all the kids at church. But they weren't like the one that man made me. That was just a seed, I think. Like one you put in the ground. I think that was the first seed. I think I was the first seed. Attest. Me. You're saying these figurines would eventually grow into entities like the one that haunted your family. Ross. I think they would have brought more things. More things like Clue. Me. Ross. How many of these clay moldings did Clue make? Ross. Whispers. Hundreds. Me. Where are they, Ross? Where did they all go? Ross. I don't know. I'm sorry. Me. I think we're done here. Ross. Can I go see my mom now? Me. Yes, of course. Of course. Audio recorder deactivated. The events that I unearthed in these interviews have left me shaken to the core. I don't dare dig any deeper, fear of what I might find. There are answers out there, holes that lead to revelations I don't want to think about. I don't know where Clue came from. I don't know where he was trying to take all the children. I don't know why he vanished that night, if he did at all. But something tells me that one day we'll find out, because one of those clay figures is going to show up, and then it will start all over.